Marina, going live to bring you a gist of the current affairs, interviews, exploring topical issues and major highlights shaping the week in Gambia and around the world. Here is a look at what's coming up. Unpacking the challenge of irregular migration and the persistent struggle by migrants to access legal representation, we examine the growing deportation of Gambian migrants from Germany. Asking leading migration activist Yaya Sonko why immigrants find it extremely difficult to access legal aid in Europe. Also coming up, award-winning environmental and climate advocate Omar Malmo talks to us about the emerging wave of young people leading ecological action and the red alert to reduce greenhouse emission and reverse a worsening trend affecting the world's future. And that's the final take with me, Seni Marina. Much more is coming live for a special edition, putting the weeks of interesting current affairs and topical issues in the spotlight. A warm welcome to the final take with me, Seni MK Marina. Now, Gambian migrants continue to face a growing threat of deportation. A warm welcome to the final take with me, Seni MK Marina. Now, Gambian migrants continue to face a growing threat of deportation from Germany, where authorities are intensifying their crackdown on illegal migration. The latest batch is expected to arrive in the Gambia in the coming weeks, following 6 Gambians released from German jail on Friday. One of the challenges facing irregular migration in Europe without papers is the lack of legal representation. Despite settling in a new country, migrants often battle with the system to socialize, work, or simply survive in their host nation. The group of experts against trafficking in human rights under the Council of Europe notes these difficulties in recent report, citing the absence of legal representation. To understand the situation and plight of Gambian migrants in Germany, we are joined live by Yaya Sonko, a leading migrant activist in Germany. Thank you for joining us, Yaya. Now, 6 Gambians detained were released from deportation center in Germany on Friday. As a citizen migration activist, tell us more about the latest issue and the continuous deportation of Gambians. We are trying to connect with Yaya, a leading migrant activist in Germany, who will join us shortly on the show. Yaya, are you there? We are having some challenges with our connection, but as soon as we settle it, Yaya will join us to tell us about this latest migration crisis affecting Gambian citizens in Germany. Hello, for those tuning in, this is MK, the final take with MK, airing live on our Facebook page. We are joined by Yaya Sonko, a migrant activist in Germany, who is going to tell us about the... Yaya, are you there? It seems we're having troubles with our connection, but Yaya will join us shortly on this show. Yaya, are you there?
Yes, I am here, MK.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us. For those joining us live on Alcamba Times Facebook Live, this is the final take with me, Seni MK Marena. This is our first edition of this show, and today we have Yaya. Yaya, thank you for joining us. Now, 6 Gambian detainees were released from the German deportation center on Friday as a citizen and a leading migration activist. Bring us to speed about this issue unfolding right now in Germany.
Exactly, MK Marina. This is what happened. But first of all, thank you very much for inviting me today. In fact, what a privilege for your first edition for that matter. So I'm very happy and glad to join you and your team. And of course, all our viewers who are viewing, more especially my fellow Gambian immigrant brothers and sisters within EU. I am saying hi to you all, and let's share this program so that our other colleagues, brothers and sisters, will also benefit whatsoever might be discussed here today. MK, yes, with regards to your question, yes. Past days, let me put it this way, according to records, when I'm in record, according to my own records of receiving calls from the detainees, that is the Gambian detainees at different deportation centers within Germany. For past since last week, Gambians have many Gambians were arrested, and they were parked. Most of them, about 8 of them that I am in personal contact with, are parked in one deportation center called Pforzheim Deportation Prison in Germany, here in the region of Baden-Württemberg. So basically, most of these people, the reason why they are arrested or they were arrested is
That's
basically
Germany.
because,
Which part of Germany
yeah,
is
yes, a region in Germany called Baden. So basically, the reason they gave me, I mean, the Gambian immigrants, and as an eyewitness, somebody who went to visit some of these detainees, I came across with their deportation orders. So basically, they have deportation orders that they should be deported on the 25th of this month, if all goes well with Germany
the
and EU.
Gambia?
Yeah.
Yeah, do you think that the Gambia government is complicit in this deportation issue, considering the agreement the government of the Gambia had with the German authorities?
Absolutely. This deportation, people are arguing here and there. People are shouting here and there. Government, the side of government, they were saying that there is no agreement or there is no deportation agreement. And of course, Gambians, more especially diasporians, are loudly saying that there is of course an agreement. But to make it clear, yes, Seni, I can officially tell you that of course there is an agreement. One thing, the Gambia government, to me, the Gambia government use diplomacy language here. They will always say, no, we don't have any deportation agreement. Yes, there is no specific agreement called deportation agreement between Gambia and Germany or between Gambia and EU. But there is an agreement called the Good Practice Document between the European Union and the Gambia. And
Yes.
Germany, to be specific, is using that agreement signed or agreed between European Union and the Gambia since 2018. So Germany and other EU states are relying on that good practice document that was agreed, the good practice that was agreed between the Gambia government and the EU. So basically, yes, there is an agreement, and based on that agreement, that is why Germany is leading. Other EU countries are doing it too, but Germany is leading in terms of high numbers of deported Gambians to the Gambia.
Since the year commenced, we have seen a lot of deportation flights coming from Germany to the Gambia. How many are we talking about over the in 2023 alone? In 2022, sorry, alone, how many Gambians have been deported and how many are waiting deportation back home in the Gambia as part of this good practice document that was signed between the European Union and our government?
Okay, in 2023 alone, more than 600 Gambians were deported from Germany alone. More than 600 Gambians last year. People don't know these figures. It is a lot. That's why some of us are not sitting and leaving it to just happen like that. So basically, last year, more than 600 Gambians were deported. That amounts to about 13 chartered deportation flights last year alone. This year, we start counting again from January to now. If the chartered deportation flight scheduled for 25th, if it goes, well, so definitely that will be counted as the third deportation flight for this month. And according to the good practice document, EU agreed with Gambia. According to that good practice document, the both states agreed for 50 people per month. Okay, so but what we saw Gambia government and EU doing is that what they try to do is every chartered deportation flight, if there is one flight per month, it means they will deport 25 Gambians. Okay, per flight. Per flight, 25 Gambians per flight. So basically, this is how the deportation is going. So in 2024, this would be the third flight. Already, I can tell you, 50 Gambians deported this year alone from Germany alone.
Wow. Interesting. Still talking about, we know that there has been talks of engaging more extensive settling program as part of this good practice document for skilled migrants. Is Germany making any effort to assimilate our immigrants with viable skill?
Well, in Germany, or in do you mean in Gambia or in Germany?
I mean in Germany.
In Germany, of course. It is not about the Gambians.
I mean,
it is about
in Germany.
Yes, it is not about the Gambians. It is about the migration laws and regulations in Germany. So entirely, immigrants in Germany, more especially with this new government. When I say the new government, here I am referring to when Angela Merkel left. The new government that came in power, the current government, they came up with so many laws and regulations. There are so many changes in terms of their migration laws, in terms of their Labor Act laws and stuff like that. And those migration laws those laws and regulations gave a lot of opportunity, of course, to Gambians and other immigrants in generally. So yes, there are some opportunities and ventures that Gambians or immigrants in generally can partake.
Okay, Mr. Sonko, take us through the challenges migrants face in accessing legal aid, because during most of your visit to these detention centers, you realize that most Gambians are struggling very hard to have access to legal representation, and this is a fundamental human right of every migrant to have access to this legal aid. Why is it challenging for our Gambians in these detention centers having challenges with accessing this legal aid?
Well, usually, yes, legal support is always a challenge when our Gambian brothers and sisters are in such situation or conditions. More especially when they are detained, because sometimes some of these legal issues are not free. It means there are charges attached to it. If you want a lawyer to represent you, if you are under deportation or under deportation threat, or you are arrested by police and they are about to deport you, during that process, if you don't have your own lawyer, If you don't have a own lawyer, means you need a lawyer immediately. Usually there will be payments attached to it, few hundreds. You will pay a few hundreds. You will be charged to pay a few hundreds. And most of our Gambian brothers and sisters are definitely usually financially they are not stable. They are not in when these deportations happen or when this arrest happens. They usually not in position to pay those legal fees. So that became a very big challenge. Lawyers sometimes are not free, and when they are in such situations sometimes also, because it becomes more complicated, more critical, to even assist them, to even support them legally. So some lawyers will say that, well, it is late, I can do very little to help or to rescue them from this detention centers. Those are the challenges.
Yeah, recently the EU group of experts against trafficking in human, notes a great concern about the gap in legal aid for migrants. In some cases, a total unavailability of legal representation in several EU countries. How is this impeding the path to regularizing migrant status in the host countries? And how do you think, we can alleviate this?
Well, with regards to EU, EU they pretend that they are. I always say this. They pretend that they receive a lot of immigrants, more especially from sub-Saharan African countries. Well, when you look at the numbers, when they say it is a lot, we are receiving a lot of refugees. They continue to cry. You hear their technocrats or EU diplomats will cry or will complain that we need to stop this, we need to do this, we need to close our borders, we need to tighten our securities. But look, the reality is they are doing only that to let me put it this way, the West African immigrants. Look, when the Ukraine Russia war started, within months more than millions of immigrants, Ukrainian immigrants, entered in Germany, and they are all fully supported. They are all. In fact, they changed certain laws and degrees within their, immigration laws and labor rights laws to cater them. Basically, that tells you those people, they see them differently. That tells you the systematic race. I call it systematic injustice within EU setup. Okay, yes, you are saying no to West African immigrants. And then when. But yes to Ukrainian refugees or immigrants, even welcoming them, giving them almost everything, So basically, EU will continue to look. Migration is a human right, and migration for this irregular migration, it just cannot be stopped like that. So what EU need to do, or governments, policymakers need to do, we should all understand that migration is a global problem. A global problem need a global solution. In that global solution, you need to come with countries need to come together, stakeholders need to. It should not be like EU having the superpower, the bigger hand to say yes to this and no to this, and our African heads of states or our African technocrats will just be there, yes sir, no sir. No, it's a global issue. These immigrants are from Africa coming to Europe, but then EU also we all have a part to play. So basically, there should be a global solution. There should be a balanced way, to put these things forward.
Yes, coming to your questions about how African immigrants in Europe are treated compared to their other counterparts from other parts of the world, like in Europe, looking at the Ukrainian crisis, a lot of Ukrainians fled the conflict in Ukraine to Europe, and they were welcome, unlike the African migrants who are struggling every day with injustice. Just a couple of months ago, and a Gambian migrant, Lamin Toure, was, killed by German police in a very brutal way. Can you bring us to speed about that case? What efforts have been placed to ensure that justice is served for Lamin Toure, not only Lamin, but for countless number of African migrants who die in the hands of the German police?
Exactly. You are right. In March, a Gambian citizen by the name Lamin Toure was brutally killed by 14 German police officers. Here, what happened was, at first, the first report that was published in German medias was like they tried to frame the late Lamin Toure as an attacker, as somebody aggressive,
Yeah.
somebody who just took a
Violent attack.
knife and
Yeah.
attack a German citizen, attack a German female for that matter, a partner for that matter. But then when the realities start coming up, you realize in fact that was not the truth, because according to the partner, according to the citizen that they are talking about, or the, let me say, the white lady they are talking about, according to her, Lamin is a peaceful person. Lamin, she was the one who called the police, who she was the one who called the attention of authorities to come and help. She was asking for help. She was not asking police to come and escalate the situation. She just, in fact, the first approach she did was calling ambulance. She called ambulance several times, because she saw a partner. If, according to her, she saw a very friendly Lamin who was going through depresses. Lamin was depressed. Lamin was going in those weeks, Lamin was going through developing some mental issues. Okay, so the partner was worried, the way Anmana Lamin was these days. Okay, so she called for a support. So instead of them to come and support, and take Lamin to a psychiatric center, the police escalated the entire situation. They went there, about 14 police officers with different things. You can see it in the videos with a dog and stuff like that. According to eyewitnesses, Lamin, in fact, this lady told me particularly, I'm in contact with her, told me that, see, when police came in such a situation, a dramatic situation, she approached them. She told them, the way you guys are behaving, I did not call you to behave like this. In fact, if you cannot calm Lamin down, if you cannot help, allow me to go back to Lamin and then, try to calm Lamin down. But then she said police never listened. Police, in fact, packed her to, so then they went ahead and escalate the entire situation. Lamin was brutally killed. So as of today, as we are speaking, what is happening since Lamin died, we form a Justice for Lamin Toure movement, which I lead. So this Justice for Lamin Toure movement, we are working with international NGOs, and some lawyers here, to get to the bottom of this. So our lawyers are working on they are working on the whole entire thing. As far as we know, there is an investigation going on right now, and also to tell you how brutally German police officers continue to kill our African citizens, because Lamin is not the first person. In fact, the region where Lamin was killed, Lamin is the sixth African youth who was killed by police officers in that region. Yeah, African migrant who was killed in that region, the same region.
Nothing comes out of this. And nothing comes out of this.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely nothing. So basically, what we know, in fact, there are media reports, authentic German media reports that indicate that some of those police officers who shot Lamin, who are part of that operation, some of those police officers are supporting the German far-right party, that is the German racist party, AfD. Some of them, a police officer among those killers, a police officer among those police groups, one of them, in fact, made videos.
Wow.
Yes, he's a police officer. In fact, made social media videos against immigrants, and even going brutal against immigrants. So basically, that tells you that those police officers, for me, I said that these are just racist police officers covering themselves with police uniform.
uniform. And then they do this with impunity without any accountability. For those watching, this is the medium edition of the final take with me, Seni MK Marina, live on our studios in Seattle. Those watching, this is Yaya Sonko, a leading migrant activist, talking to us about migrant crisis and the help his organization and other Gambian activists are doing to support the Gambian migrant crisis. Ayaya, finally, you have issued that statement early Saturday morning, calling the attentions of Gambian authorities, bringing to their light about the release of some of the detainees. And you even asked them that they should they should try and leave German if they can. Why that alert?
Because MK, I know one thing. Germans, if they try to deport you, they already, you should understand that they created something. They created something that to them that disqualified you to stay here in Germany, or that disqualify you to live here in Germany. And some, the reason why some of us, I and some of my colleagues, and even active some other like the Gambian activists in Germany or helpers in Germany, the reason why we do visit these prisons is to, usually for me personally, when I visit these detainees, I do go through their files. I don't just go there to see them merely. They usually have a file there. They usually have some documents there. So when you go through that, when I go through those documents, I critically look into them. If there are loopholes within, legal loopholes that we can use lawyers or their companies or supporters to challenge. That's we usually do that. So we will take advantage of those, because there are different laws and regulations, that help, that the police or the German authorities here use to deport. But equally, there are other laws and regulations that also give some so-called rights to immigrants. Like example, somebody who has been fully integrated. When I said fully integrated, somebody who has been working, somebody who has been paying tax, somebody who never committed a crime, somebody who can speak a very good German language. So somebody who is in fact going to school. So basically his or her crime is only that his asylum chances are exhausted. Usually lawyers, good lawyers can challenge that at court. Usually with the help of their companies, they can challenge those things at court. But coming back to your question, why are we saying they should leave? Because I know for the fact that through my experience, usually even if your lawyer or your company support you, they fight it through court, or all of a sudden something happened between them and the Gambia government, a flight is cancelled or a deportation is cancelled. Usually what they will do again is they will prepare again to come for you. So then, they will not just leave you to go home and then you think that you are free. No, it did not happen like so. Basically, I don't want, because I saw it happening. They will leave some of them after weeks or months. In fact, they will go after them again. Okay, so basically, before you become a victim, already you got a chance. There is something called a voluntary. You can leave this country voluntarily. You can inform the state that I'm leaving your country voluntarily. You can leave voluntarily too. Sometimes people do it. Okay, basically. So why not you take advantage of that? I mean, I am not saying leave voluntarily to Gambia. Don't let people don't take me. But what I am saying is leave this country if you can. There are some legal ways and manners. There are ways, possible ways you can leave this country. If you are targeted, if you were arrested, detained, and because of your lawyer challenge or because of your company challenge or because of some other reasons, you are lucky to be released to go home. Brothers and sisters, take advantage of that. Make decision as quickly as possible to leave this country.
Thank you very much. That's leading migration activist Yaya Sonko delivering an insight thoughts on the deportation of Gambians and challenges migrants face to access support in Europe. Yaya, thank you for joining us on the maiden edition of the final take with me, Seni MK Marina. This is the final take with me. Let's shift our attention to environmental protection amid a red alert sounding the alarm on the urgency for climate action to tackle the world's ecological dilemma. Shifting weather conditions drive everything from wildfires to erratic rainfall and epic flood. A fresh wave of young people are emerging to lead the world climate change action and promote environmental protection. They include award-winning environmentalist Omar Malmo Sambou, who is championing a crucial leap to inspire climate action and raise youth awareness of the task at hand. So I am going to be joined live here with my friend, Mr. Malmo, to talk about this important topic. Thank you for joining us, Omar. Now, one of the biggest questions is the sustainability of the narrative and for a valuable local commitment, communities around the world. That means a sole livelihood to sustain their families. Where do we begin the real work to build a resilient against climate change, Mr. Malmo?
Please.
Uh, Oh, okay. Welcome, my friend. I see it seems that we're facing some technical hitches out there, but I'm glad to have you on my final take right here on Alcamba Times. For those watching us, this is the final take, and my guest is right set in the studio. Welcome, Omar Malmo Sambou.
Thank you very much, Mr. Marina. I'm very happy to be here. It's always good to have a conversation with you. And thank you for the invitation. And to the whole team of Alcamba Times, I'm very happy to associate with you. And of course, to our audience and those who will be watching from wherever around the world, I send you greetings. And I'm very happy to be here.
Right, thank you. And we are also glad to have you here, Omar Malmo Sambou. Take us to the conversation to the young people. Let's take this conversation to the young people. How are they helping to transform the narrative and call to environmental action? We have seen that you and your team are leading efforts to ensure that the environmental protection issues are taken with seriousness in the Gambia and elsewhere.
Yes, thank you very much for that question. I think at this point, there have been a lot of action in the Gambia. And the whole idea of environmental protection, when we had started our organization about 10 or 12 years ago, the idea was, there was very little, capacity and information around environment and environmental management. And what we wanted was to focus the minds of Gambians on environmental consciousness and to understand the cross-cutting issues around climate change, our economy, and the well-being of the people. Because economic viability depends largely on the environmental resources we have. And of course, environmental health and vitality mostly depend on the ecosystems in which we live in. So for
Absolutely.
us to raise awareness on that and to focus the minds of the Gambian people on it was quite very sacrosanct. And what we did was to create mass movements and ensure that the people are aware of their environmental issues around the country, and that has led to the proliferation of environmental movements and organizations. And you can tell that almost every one or two young person you meet in the Gambia has one information or another around environment, and people are quite very much aware of environmental issues happening within and around their communities. And we have seen also local communities raising alarms and resisting, environmental degradation issues that might be championed by government or people that are custodians of our environment. So that tells you that an informed society is a society that definitely protects its own well-being. And this is what a lot of young people are doing, trying to, raise awareness, try to champion climate action, and as well as leading projects and, discussions both nationally and internationally. So I think, fast forward, if you look at it 10 years ago and now, we have more hands on environment and we have more minds on environment and we have more awareness raised on environment. To a point that not even people, in government can definitely do certain actions without communities, acting up to talk about, what needs to be done rightly or not.
Absolutely. Malmo, thank you very much for that elaborative analysis. about the current situation. Collaborative efforts among climate advocates and environmentalists, including yourself, have been critical in driving action. Is it time to view partnership as an important pathway to sustainability, looking at the threat that our country, the Gambia, is facing in terms of environment?
The fact of the matter is that environment is a cross-cutting issue, and generally this is a multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary subject. So therefore, discussing issues around the environment has to do with collaborative efforts, and of course integration of efforts from different institutions, different personnel, and different expertise. Because you realize that when we talk about water pollution, it has a component of chemistry, so therefore you need the chemists to be part of these discussions. If you talk about ecological disruption around our forest ecologies, you need foresters to help you with this, and you might need oceanographers to help with our water bodies here and there. So environment is quite a cross-cutting subject that definitely is multidisciplinary in nature. Therefore, collaboration and of course joining effort is the most ideal way in tackling environmental issues, and that is why we consider climate and environmental problems as global security issues, and therefore they require global expertise to definitely solve some of these. So it cannot be done in isolation. It has to be collaboratively done, both nationally and internationally. And this is what is clearly spelled out in our 2016 national climate change policy, that we need integration of efforts from local government, from activist point of view, from local communities to government. All stakeholders are quite very relevant in fighting against climate change and environmental degradation. Therefore, collaboration is, of course, the ultimate way to achieve sustainability.
Recently in the Gambia, we have seen, a lot of climate injustice and also destruction for our environment, like the Monkey Park and other parks in here, which have come under intense pressure from the government. What do you think, we should do to protect our, our environment, our flora and fauna? Because Gambia has always been known, to be an environmental friendly country. But over the past decade or so, we have seen a lot of damage caused to the environment by the very people who supposed to protect, those environment for us.
I will take a quick marathon run on this and give you, a lot of scenarios that are happening in the Gambia that definitely are quite not desirable. First, let's look at it. I've been telling a couple of students back in Gambia that there'll come a time, even a burial ground, we might not have. Now, look at real estate development and proliferation of real estates in the Gambia. This has led to, ecological disruption in certain sensitive ecologies. When you come down to, let's say, Sukuta Salaji area, and then where you have the, I think, social security estate here and there. Some of these things are quite low lying, but then it is the Gambia where people create estates where they do not even cater for praying grounds. They don't cater for, burial grounds. They don't cater for schools. They don't cater for, let's say playgrounds here and there. They don't care about the environment and its well-being. So there'll come a time that even burying our dead, we might go to the provinces to do that. And that is quite fast happening within the combos, because if you come down to Greater Banjul area, let's talk about the Joswang Cemetery is almost full. So if it is full to capacity, where will you bury our dead? Let's talk about Banjul, which is quite an island. And then if you look at it also in Banjul, a lot of people are moving now to Joswang to even bury their dead. So that's the simplest explanation of complex issues in our environment. But let's look at it from our sensitive ecologies where they're protected by law. This government is very much bent on de-reserving protected ecologies for infrastructural development purpose. We have seen, the current Minister of Environment, by virtue of the fact that she's a niece to the president, but the honest opinion is that this woman does not have the technical capacity. She does not really, she's the least to be qualified to be environment minister, because this is the person who said that environment is there to satisfy human needs. Environment is not there to satisfy just human needs, because we need to live, in harmony with our environment. And in a way, we cannot continue to destroy our sensitive ecologies just to satisfy man. Let's look at the monkey parks issue. The monkey park is one of the most sensitive ecologies in the Gambia. That has hundreds of species within it, and including, endangered species. So if somebody jumps one day and said that we have to destroy this place or sell it to, in a foreign entity at a market valued price, this is the worst you can ever hear from a government that really should be there to protect our sensitive ecologies and our common heritage that belongs to all Gambians. But instead of protecting these ecologies, you want to sell it at a market value price. So that tells you that the system currently is not very serious about environmental protection. When we come to our coastline, go down to Gunjur, Sanyang, and Kartong, where we have the fish meal factories. Up till date, I challenge anyone, any scientist, any government official, that none of these fish meal factories has, a functional waste treatment plant. Market functional. They might just have all those tankers in there, but none of those is functional. So therefore, they are just, discharging, waste that is not treated into our water bodies, and this has been persistent.
And that is harmful. And this is very harmful to the fish.
It has been persistent for the longest time. But now when you look at our forest ecologies, let's say when we talk about, timber business, this is a business run by it's a criminal enterprise with a whole
that's gonna be my next questions about the legal timber business in the country, and the recent allegations of the minister's involvement in selling the confiscated logs from Kiankaf. This will be my next question, but go ahead.
So all of these things are compounding issues that are around our environment. If you go down to Nyanibere Forest has been there for the longest time. This is a protected area. But all of a sudden, government want to reserve part of it to turn it into settlements. Gambia does not have a land use policy. And a country at this age and time without a land use policy, anybody can change a farmland into a residential area. Anyone can change a residential farm into a piggery. It depends on whatever you want to do on your land. Let's say, for instance, I went in the middle of Salagi and I bought a land there. I can turn it into a piggery, or I could turn it into an animal rearing zone, which might not be the most ideal place to do so. So the country definitely needs a land use policy that takes care of what activities can be done in a particular land and what cannot be done. So government cannot just, at convenience, just get up and then want to reserve protected areas for, their needs, or for the needs of, certain individuals, simply because they support a certain particular political entity. I think, our protected areas definitely need to be protected as they are, and our biodiversity definitely need to be left to flourish. But sadly, it is the country where you see the president would be giving a gift of a hippo, and then you realize that the Department of Wildlife that definitely knew nothing about it would still come out to defend the case, simply say, oh, our hands are tied. I think our people just need to be honest in the execution of their functions. And to protect our environment is protecting ourselves. And we can see like Banjul now is running into like the Green Street projects here and there. There are a lot of environmental projects in the Gambia, but these projects are not translating into reality because the common man is not finding himself within the project. So mostly all these projects come and go, but then it does not solve the common man's problem. And biodiversity loss continues to happen. Land degradation continues to happen. And of course, in the North Bank, we have seen how disasters and other things have been affecting the Gambia and the Gambian people. So in short, I don't think our environmental governance it's in the right hands.
Yeah. Does this mean that we lack the vision and the direction to chart a better way forward for environmental protection in the Gambia? Or, are we lacking the necessary legislation, to guide our, actions towards protecting our environment and biodiversity?
I think the climate change policy was very explicitly clear about a lot of other things, and of course we have a biodiversity law that's quite very explicit and clear. And of course the Forest Act and all that and all those regulations, they're quite well done document. But the fact of the matter is that I think the people in governance really don't understand what they have at hand, or they really don't know the subject matter, or of course they're just there for whatever reason they want to be there, or the activities they are doing is not inconsistent or not in conformity with the laws that we have. So the fact of the matter is that environmental governance in the Gambia is such that people that are in charge really don't care about the environment, and I don't think really when the protector turns to be the destructor, then what becomes of the ordinary people? So communities seem to care about the environment much more than people who are actually giving the mandate and the responsibility to protect our ecosystems.
Malmo, thank you for that brilliant analysis. So, where are we heading if planet Earth cannot sustain our destructive way and current lifestyle? Where are we heading to?
That is why climate change continues to happen. So if you look at it, it's a global security problem that requires global solutions. But in that sense, you don't go to international conferences and international negotiations where documents are being developed for countries. Let's say the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change has been meeting for the last 30 or 32 years, since 1992, when they had the Rio de Janeiro conference on environment. But to date, what has changed? The climate continues to warm. Global warming continues to hit countries, and we have seen the results of hydrometeorological disasters hitting countries, and the Gambia is no exception, because we are quite one of those very vulnerable countries to the impacts of climate change. So climate governance is not just from just the global context, but everything that has been discussed at the global level have to be domesticated and acted on at the level of countries. But the Gambia would definitely sign and ratify a lot of conventions and still come back and do the contrary. Let's say, let's look at the CITES, which talks about the trade in certain biological materials. But the Gambia really knows that we don't have any timber, but the Gambia is one of the leading countries exporting timber to China and other places. Until the time that CITES has put a suspension on the Gambia, and the government, instead of telling us that we were suspended, they went around to turn to say, oh yeah, we stopped the trade, and we put an embargo on this. There was no embargo. The document was very clear, and it was quite obvious that CITES has put a suspension on the Gambia because the Gambia does not have any timber to trade. And we call it timber re-export trade. You see the politics we play. We try to outsmart countries. All this timber is more or less the lifeblood of the rebellion in Casamance, and they are smuggling them into the Gambia, and it's a criminal entity and network that comprises of state officials and of course business owners, and that will run this trade through the Gambia, and they call it re-export. Nobody is exporting timber to the Gambia for the Gambia to run a re-export trade. So timber is smuggled into the Gambia. So in short, the Gambia is aiding and abetting criminal timber theft from the southern part of Senegal, that the Gambia is using its country as the route to export this timber and making millions out of it. So in short, when we talk about climate as a global phenomenon, a global problem, a problem in Casamance would definitely not spare the Gambia. So if the Gambia thinks destroying or being complicit in that deal is something that is going to help our country, we are just deceiving ourselves. And that is why, because Senegalese military forces that are present in the Gambia are making the trade so difficult for our people, and that is why they are now moving to our internal forest, and this includes even state officials. So they cannot deny everything that they're trying to deny. This is an enterprise that includes state officials, business owners, and maybe security personnel. Because if you realize that this container has timber, how would it move from Casamance until Banjul? How does it get to Banjul?
Report, yeah. Yeah, those are red line,
And then you realize that the Ministry of Environment used to give people a non-refundable fee license of about 200,000 as far as the time I used to know. I'm not sure if they're still doing that, but because they said there is an embargo and the trade is not happening. But we know that underground, the timber that have been confiscated is actually being, smuggled out. Who is responsible? Who is going to take responsibility for it? And these are the kind of things that somebody would jump and say, oh no, it's my staff, it's not me. But we've seen also, at the Ministry of Fisheries, where, the minister and the permanent secretary were implicated. And we have been, raising alarm on these people that they're involved with the Chinese in one way or another to exploit the Gambian people and our marine ecosystems. And they've been denying until they were caught on record. But what did they do? They sacrificed the permanent secretary and allowed the minister to just go. So the Gambia is becoming a safe haven for the corrupt and individuals who definitely do not have technical capacity and do not deserve to be in some of our government enterprises, or more so running certain government institutions.
Absolutely. You watching the final take with me, Seni MK Marena, delivering a thorough analysis of the most important events of the week. We will take a quick break, and when we are back, we will take the conversation to the next level. Stay tuned.
With MK Mariner every Saturday on the Alcamba Times and experience extensive conversations on a variety of topics, including national and international headlines, breaking issues, and major developments in politics, business, innovation, science, and sports, along with inspiring
Live on Alcamba Time Facebook page from our studios, virtual studios here in Seattle, Washington. Speaking to me is Omar Malmo Sambou, an environmental activist. He's speaking to me live from New York. Omar, welcome back after this break. Now let's take this conversation to the Gambia, which has been recognized for its effort to contribute to environmental sustainability and meet a growing wave of young advocates and ecological groups. How has the government harnessed this opportunity to drive a green-centered growth? Because this is something, I don't know whether you will agree with me, but government efforts have been appreciated or contributed to environmental sustainability. What's your take on this?
The fact of the matter is I'm very much aware of those documents and recognitions. And I must really say the past minister, Mr. Dibba, had worked quite tirelessly in improving the welfare of environment and environmental well-being of the Gambia. This we cannot take away from. So what had happened is that the Gambia has developed very good policies and documents that were used to rate the Gambia. So it was not about what exists on the ground, but it was on paper. So on paper, the Gambia, we are very good at developing text and developing very good policy documents. So quite, honestly, we have very good documents that if we really follow, we should be, great champions of environment and environmental protection. So on that side, of course, the Gambia has been commended internationally for the efforts that they've been doing, or for the documents they've developed that are geared towards environmental sustainability. But going forward, during the past 5 years of, environmental governance, let's say when we had Lamin B. Diba as minister, there was this collaboration among all stakeholders. This is a man during his time in that office, activists could come, we could organize protests against certain government decision, and he would come out to listen to us, and we would invite him to our events, and he will be there. So, and he has that, a capacity and ability to really drive, environmental consciousness in one way or another. So for me, at a time, things were shaping up good, and this is a moment where government was able to raise over 200 million in different, project streams. So up till now, they're running like almost, I think, a $45 million World Bank project and other things. This is simply because, the international community have seen that the Gambia is really doing quite, well with the documentation of their environmental issues and what they really want to achieve. And they've been supported for that. But with the current minister, I don't have a personal issue with the minister. But the fact of the matter is that I've seen that the ministry as a whole has sidelined civil society organizations. They have sidelined other stakeholders. They have more or less, they're more or less trying to monopolize everything within the environment sector. And environmental problems cannot be solved in isolation. So I think the most important thing, or the advice one could give the government, is to open its doors to all, stakeholders, and this would help in environmental governance. And this is basically why we've seen a lot of, problems emanating in communities. We've seen the Sanyang incident. We've seen where, riots have been happening because of that. And then we've seen a decline in our agricultural production, because people, when I see the World Bank report that talked about agriculture is improving, bro, which agriculture is improving in the Gambia? Which agriculture is improving? We are still putting our seeds on the ground like we were doing 60, 100 years ago. So the fact of the matter is that, and we are just giving farmers fertilizers without even knowing what is required by the soils. So in short, we are just intoxicating the soil. It's like going to the hospital and then the doctor does not know your prognosis and just give you medicine for HIV and AIDS when you're actually suffering from diarrhea. That will increase to the problem. So I think we need more research on climate. We definitely need more research on agriculture. We need more research on some of these cross-cutting issues, because our economy is largely dependent on our environment, because the environment is more or less the universal set on which every other domain depends on. And if your environment is not well taken care of, your people will not be healthy. And of course, the ecosystems that might be supporting a healthy growth will not be there anymore, and the people will definitely suffer a lot more. So I think environmental governance in one way or another definitely needs a lot of improvement in the Gambia. But of course, we've been doing very well internationally, depending on the documents that we've been developing, and those texts are still there. But how far have we gone in the implementation of those texts? How are we holding government account to some of these policy documents and what they were realized in implementing them? Most of these projects will be here, but how far do we go to question government on the achievements that some of these projects have registered? Almost we wouldn't do anything around that. So these are things that the civil society definitely need to hold government accountable. But when you start holding people accountable and start telling them, no, we would not let you destroy the monkey park here and there, they begin to sideline, people that are quite very meaningful to our collective progress and development, which is not really going to be helpful to the country. So in short, I think the current leadership is not very much friendly to civil society organizations. It's not very friendly to communities here and there. And it's not really, friendly to the voices that would definitely raise alarms when there are environmental issues, simply because they will give government all the right to say, oh yeah, you can destroy the monkey park. Yes, we agree. We cannot have a yes Ministry of Environment. Ministry of Environment is to guide the government on the right practices of environmental management. But if you don't have the technical capacity, you don't know, then you would only be yes, and that's the problem we are having at the moment.
Okay.
And that's why when environmental problem, they will just jump on the journalists here and there instead of looking at things holistically to solve the problem for the common good.
Absolutely. Malmo, we are running out of time, and then the conversation is getting very interesting as you bring to light these burning issues affecting our country and our environmental sector. We are left with just 5 minutes, and then I will do that closing remark with the story we wrote about the environment minister Roy John Manjang, alleged implication into the selling of the confiscated legal logs in Kiankayaf. I will just give you 1 minute, to give me your reaction to that story before I close it with what we are going through with the minister, because she has threatened us a legal action, and his lawyers has already written to Alcamba Time. So I will do that as my closing remark in 6 minutes. But first, what's your reaction to minister's threat against Alcamba Time newspaper about our publication, alleging her to be complicit in the confiscation of that timber log in Kiankaya?
I think the fact of the matter is that the minister really she doesn't want this said, but she does not have the technical capacity and does not have the capacity to be minister, because even not just Alcamba Times, but this is a minister, whom when civil society even makes complaints about certain ecological disruptions, they just sideline you or completely do away with you, or they would have even given you certain responsibilities and they take it away from you. Alcamba Times is just the latest victim, because some of these organizations would not even come to talk about it. I know an organization that I helped to establish that was giving the right to work with the Great Green Wall Project. But when we raised alarms about the Nyani Bere Forest and the Monkey Park, they have taken all responsibilities they had already given to the organization to champion that project on the Great Green Wall. So if Alcamba Times is the latest victim of the minister, I will just tell you that, I don't think the minister is very democratic. And also, we've seen, BBC reports, implicating certain other ministers, and they went to the media to clarify. Let her go and clarify. Before you take people to court, clarify and tell us the reality. And the fact of the matter is that if somebody is to give you a very basic analysis, if I work under a minister and then she said, oh no, it's not me, it's my staff, Why was that never out in the media? Why was that a hidden investigation? Why was nothing said about that until Alkamba had to do the story? Why was it so difficult for her to give the right version of the story to the reporter of Alkamba? Why does he need the person to go and say, oh, go and verify? Verification is done by calling the minister. Why couldn't she actually, give the right perspective? That is quite right. I think, the fact is, it's difficult to say in the Gambia, but this is an incompetent minister who does not deserve to spend any other day in the Ministry of Environment as minister, simply because he does not have the technical capacity. She does not have what it takes to be an environment minister. She does not know a lot or anything about the environment. And, either she is complicit or not, innocent or not, I think you can deal with things in a more professional way by clarifying than, talking or giving threats or telling people that I'm going to take you to court. If you don't, you are a minister of a country, that country, you owe it to the people to clarify when there is a need. If you don't want anybody to talk about you, stay at home and don't take state responsibilities, because this is not a family affair. This is not about being related to the president and to make you a minister and to think that it is like a household. You don't run our country like a household. This belongs to every one of us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's Omar Malmo Sambou speaking to MK, the final take with MK live from New York. This brings us to the end of the today's edition of the final take. Malmo, we thank you so much for sparing your time to join this very interesting discussion and analysis. Thank you very much. Before I draw the curtain, this is the final take with me, Seni MK Marina, live from our studios, our virtual studios in Seattle, Washington. Before I close, I would like to, let my followers and viewers know that the Minister of Environment, Madam Roy John Manjang, has written to Alkamba Times through his lawyer, Modu Musa Drame, for us to retract our publication alleging her involvement in the selling of the confiscated timber logs in Kiankayab. In doing so, the Alkamba Times has also, hired a lawyer who has responded to the Honorable Minister's lawyer's letter for us to apologize, or she will institute a legal action within 1 week. So I will not say much about this case, but I can let our viewers know that the minister has officially written to Alkamba Times for us to retract our, publication, or else we will, meet in court. In the same vein, we have also engaged the services of a legal counsel. He has already taken up the matter, and we will likely see the Honorable Minister in court very soon. That brought us to the end of this million edition of the final take with me, Seni MK Marina. Please do join us every week here on Alkamba Time Facebook page. I will want to send a special thanks to my studio operations. Usman Jah is handling the studio operation from Banjul, and my wife, Christina, is also helping with the studio preparation here in Seattle. And to our designer, Fatu Hydra, is also helping us with this brilliant design. So for the rest of the team and myself, I say thank you for watching the first edition of MK, the final take with MK Marina. Thank you. Bye, and see you soon.
Every Saturday on the Alkamba Times and experience extensive conversations on a variety of topics, including national and international headlines, breaking issues, and major developments in politics, business, innovation, science, and sports, along with inspiring